Thank you very much, Dixon, and it's a pleasure to be here today. It's so exciting. I was here in this part of the world, spoken generally. I was in Shanghai in 1983. I was 16 years old. Now you know how old I am. But I was 16 years old and I came to China to study Chinese for a summer, 10 weeks in Shanghai, and then a little bit of traveling in the north. And China was a communist country then. There were no private businesses. When I got to Beijing, the news was that there were starting to be private restaurants and people had them in their homes. So to come to this part of the world again and see the changes that have happened, and to be in Hong Kong for the first time is really magical for me. And just to maybe get you to laugh, I'm going to tell you the one sentence in Mandarin that I still know how to say, and that's 我是华东师大学留学生. So anyway, that's the extent of my Chinese now, but I'm determined to get back into it now that I'm inspired by being here. So my colleague Scott Lair from the International Franchise Association, would you say hello, Scott, to everyone? And I are here. We're very delighted to be here with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council talking about franchising. I was talking with Albert, who you're going to hear from in a moment, Albert Kong and Dixon, about franchising itself. And this franchising came out of the post-World War II era, when America was in a different place and time. And I think having completed the war, the culture had gone overseas and it was very popular. So you had the original brands. We were talking about A&W Root Beer and McDonald's, these original concepts that got started in America, and there was this demand for these concepts that started to spread around the world. And Albert made an interesting comment that, you know, our military had gone overseas, and this was taking American culture to places that it hadn't been before. And we still are a very young country, very innocent country. The whole World War II experience was a real maturation for us. And so you see franchising getting started right after that. And the reason it's significant, other than it became a very popular thing in the United States, and now, as you know, it's everywhere in this world, just about, is that it's a business system that has been thought through page by page by somebody. And it's a business in a box, we sometimes say, that you as an entrepreneur can have a small business. You can own your own business, but you're not by yourself, that you're working with a system, you're working with a plan, there's training, there's regular training. So if you think of franchising that way, separating a second from the brands themselves, which are fun concepts, that's another reason it has succeeded, probably. They're fun concepts. They have color, they have light, and they're artful, and a lot of them are even, I'm thinking about the food brands, they're happy. So this has resonated with people. But in addition to all of that, what you have in franchising is a very powerful tool for economic development. And it's a powerful tool that can train people and educate people when they don't have other opportunities. So thinking about our work internationally at the International Franchise Association, we're thinking of it sometimes in that way. How can this business model be used to advance people and give them stable, productive, prosperous lives, to move them forward. And that way we can see franchising as a progressive institution, a progressive model that helps people. And that's what makes it very exciting to us, the opportunity that it offers. So again, we really appreciate your interest. I've been struck here in Hong Kong by the sophistication and the entrepreneurialness of the people here and the desire to build opportunity and to be a place of business, a marketplace for the whole world. And now, of course, what's happening is so interesting with Hong Kong being a gateway to mainland China. And so we would like to encourage that in our country and help people understand the role of Hong Kong and also the opportunities that are here in Asia. Because this is where our companies want to go. They want to be part of what's happening in this part of the world. And so we're very glad to be able to be here and start to form the relationships that makes that happen. So with that, my task today is to tell you a little bit about us, the International Franchise Association, and some of the opportunities in America. Let me make sure this, there we go. The United States, as you know, is a big market, a population of over 300 million people. You can see some of those statistics. It's a very large country which has, of course, helped the growth of franchising. Due to the financial crisis, as you can see, we have quite a high unemployment rate right now, over 9%, and it's staying over 9%. It's a very intractable problem due to the depth of the financial crisis that took place. And although things seem to be turning around, we're still going to be, we have water in our boat in the debt, the scars of this financial crisis that are in the mortgage system and some of the lending. So it's going to take a while. But frankly, that's another reason to think beyond our borders. There are over 825,000 franchise business units. These are the stores themselves. 300 business lines. By this we mean there are tool companies, it's hotels, it's restaurants, it's business services. H&R Block is a tax preparation service. So all kinds of ideas have been turned into franchise concepts, and that's what makes it exciting. Franchising provides for 18 million jobs. That's a combined number of direct employment and the indirect jobs that come from the businesses. So the effects in the economy totaling over $2 trillion in the U.S. economy. So it's a resilient model. It's a growing model. Even in these economic times, we're still growing this year at about 2%, which is better than a lot of the economy. So that's a good thing. It's a resilient model. The statistics are sort of, as I say, gradually looking better, but we're going to be slowly coming out of this recession for a long time. These are some statistics of the growth rates that you can see and the development over time of franchising. Again, the resilient model. Here, this slide gives you an indication of the breadth of the businesses. People think of McDonald's, perhaps Hilton Hotels, but there are businesses like Snap-on Tools, which is tools in a truck, and they travel to car mechanics and all kinds of services. There are dog grooming businesses and things that are essential and things that are useful. This is what franchising does. Here you see that The economic conditions are worrisome for our small businesses. I think this is the case. This is still the case. A big part of that problem is access to credit and capital. Again, scars of the financial crisis. But you can see here that that the top issues of greatest concern are that and healthcare. You probably know, because you're well informed, that we've had a big debate in our country about how to handle healthcare. We were talking today at lunch about the problem of childhood obesity, and one thing that you don't see in Hong Kong is a lot of obesity, but we know that most of our healthcare problems in the United States are coming from diet and lack of exercise that leads to heart disease and these other problems. But these are preventable problems. And so how the United States and I think other countries respond to that challenge, and of course that challenge is spreading across the globe, how we respond to those challenges of preventive medicine, preventive care of the body, is going to be a key. And of course we have a lot to learn from your Chinese medicine and traditional medicine. So we see things looking up, but sort of just slightly and slowly. We have over 1,100 franchisor members in our organization. It is the largest franchise organization. And then we have about 800 supplier members. So it's totaling almost 2,000 members of our organization, and there are 14,000 franchisee members. We've made a big effort in the last number of years at the association to bring in the franchisees. It was historically known as a franchisor organization. It was started by franchisors, specifically Dunkin' Donuts had a big role in it, to promote, protect, educate the industry, to raise the level of the industry, because as you know, anytime you're in an industry, you want to make sure that the quality of the people who are representing themselves as the industry is kept to a high standard, and that's really why the organization was founded. You know these brands, they're here. Subway is here exhibiting at this meeting, and we've met some of the team from Subway that is working all around Asia. Interesting about Subway, it's definitely a healthy food concept. So it is catching this trend of weight loss and eating right, which is why it is successful. And I was asking some of the Subway delegation today whether they are customizing any of the sauces to the Asian palate. And the answer is, in some cases, yes, and it depends on whether there's a master franchisee in a country. Apparently, in India, they are doing this. In Japan, they are trying out wasabi with some of the products. So it's interesting to see how franchise brands can adapt slightly to meet the tastes of the cultures where they're going. Of course, American brands aren't the only brands, and you may recognize some of these. The frozen yogurt concept is very popular in our country, and now what's starting to happen, and this is an excellent thing, is that international franchise brands are getting started, and this is a whole new way to spread these concepts and to spread opportunity around the globe. These are our big exports, and you know, we laugh sometimes. We either have to laugh or cry when we think about U.S. exports, because we don't do much manufacturing anymore, but the American franchise system, this thing that was invented in America, it's still doing well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We are always concerned, and our primary role at the IFA is advocacy. And you have organizations that do the same thing, but our government needs to be constantly reminded of the effects of laws and regulations on business. You in business and we in business know that we're providing opportunity to people, and many people in government have not been in business, they don't understand business, and they can do a lot of damage. I'll give you an example. Our financial crisis has led to a massive amount of new regulation on our banking sector. And it turns out it has disproportionately and very severely affected small businesses. It's the small business lending that has really slowed down almost to a halt. And we also know that small business creates the jobs in our economies. So these are the kinds of things that the IFA watches very carefully, and then we raise awareness, we educate. That is our primary responsibility, and we're based in Washington, D.C. to do that. I mentioned credit access, the lack of access to capital and credit. This has become our top issue, and this is why I joined the IFA to work on this issue specifically. To raise awareness about the lack of credit access, and then to work with our partners in the lending sector to start to craft the small business, to start to craft, I should say, the private sector solutions that solve our own problems. We're not asking the government for help. We are asking them to take note of how their regulations are affecting small business, but we're raising awareness with lenders as to what franchising is. We find we have to consistently explain it. What is it? People see these big brands, KFC, McDonald's, they don't necessarily understand that these are networks of individual business owners, and they need the protections that we offer to other kinds of small business. We also organize in districts around our nation. We want members of Congress to understand that we're doing business in their districts. We're creating opportunity. So we have networks operating in 39 states, and of course in every congressional district, and I suspect in every district in Hong Kong, there are franchise businesses. So we need to constantly remind them of this so that they understand our perspective. This is a program we've just launched. VetFran was a transition program that was started in 1991 after the Gulf War to help returning veterans from the Gulf War transition to the civilian economy. I suspect this is a challenge that every country has. When members of the military are coming back into civilian life, it can be a difficult transition. And with the wars ending in Iraq and Afghanistan, which we're very happy about, we do have significant challenges, tens and tens of thousands of troops who are coming back. Many of them are wounded due to the nature of these wars. So the franchising industry and the IFA has committed as of Veterans Day, that was a couple of weeks ago, to hire or recruit as franchise business owners 75,000 veterans or their families and 5,000 wounded warriors. So our companies have set individual pledges that they will hire and recruit certain numbers by 2014. And again, this is a way that we're using franchising, I think, to do good things in our society. When you think about it, these are people who've benefited from enormous resources in training, and they actually do very well in franchising because they tend to be disciplined, they like systems, they like to follow the rules, they have had much training in leadership, team leadership. In one of my first conversations about franchising, when I came into it, this was at our annual convention in February in Las Vegas last year. Someone who's very knowledgeable about franchising said to me, "It's all about the brand and execution. It's the visibility of the brand and its execution. So as you know, the consistency of the product is so important, and that's why people who've had a military training do very well in it. In fact, we did some research and found that there are 66,000 veteran-owned franchise businesses in the United States. So we have veterans throughout our industry, and for them, and I think for franchising too, franchising and business can be a continued form of service. You know, service, it's a different kind of service than military service or medical, you know, people who are in the medical field feel like they are providing a service. Providing a service is a very satisfying way to live, and we can continue that with franchising and offer that opportunity in the civilian economy. These were some photos of the events that happened. The gentleman on the left is our boss, Steve Caldera, who took over the association about 18 months ago, and he has brought a lot of energy to it, and he would like to be here himself. I think he's very jealous of the photos that we're sending back from Hong Kong. This is General Eric Shinseki, who is now the head of our Veterans Administration, and a very good man, and we're working together with him on this effort. Those are two of our board members. The woman on the left, Mary Kennedy Thompson, is a United States Marine Corps veteran herself. And she started as a cookie franchisee, cookies like, you know, pastries. And now she runs a company called Mr. Rooter, which is a plumbing franchise. And the interesting thing about that is what you find in franchising is that people move around to different industries. She said, I loved it when I was in the cookie business, and I love being in the plumbing business. She said it's not that different. Because what you find in franchising is that people understand, those who are successful, they start to understand the business model. And it's a matter of executing a business model. And I often hear the phrase, in franchising, you need to work on your business, not in your business. In other words, you're really tinkering with a business model and always keeping an eye on what's working and what's not, and not getting lost in the weeds of too many details, but keeping that model working well. The woman in the center there is the head of our Small Business Administration, Karen Mills. She was appointed by President Obama. She is a Harvard undergraduate, and she went to Harvard Business School and got an MBA. She's a very smart lady, and this is typical of the Obama appointees. They've had a rough time, but what you find is that many qualified people in the government who do want to work with franchising to help us advance and climb out of this recession. We work with the Small Business Administration on loans and so forth. So much like in Hong Kong, we are working with our government entities when we can, where it makes sense to advance this business model. As you know, franchising is really based on laws, and it has to, the laws have to be favorable for franchising to work. And as the model goes into other countries, this is one of the challenges. I'm sure Dixon and Albert will speak more about this, but this is the key to the success of this model is laws that protect it, especially internationally. So we would like to be in touch with you. We are growing our international program. We want to help our members understand more about international opportunities, and to the extent that you would like to be in touch with us about opportunities in America or working with our members, we want to be there for you. So this is our contact information, and please do come up and say hello to us and meet us if you can. And again, we're delighted to be here, and we're just very grateful for the opportunity. I'll just add one more thing, which is that as I was in a lunch earlier today with some of your colleagues here and from the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, I got an email from a franchisee who was emailing me about our Vet Friend program. He's a military veteran himself, and at the bottom of his email was a tagline that said, "If you're doing what you love, you will never work a day again in your life." And it's a quote from Confucius. So we're learning little by little, and thank you very much for the opportunity.